I've been in the industry for about 10 years now. I'm going to do my 10-year video. I'm still trying to figure out what to say in it. I've worked at 2 big tech companies, but what you actually don't know is that I don't have a degree in data science. I come from a non-tech background. I went to a community college. I am first female in my family to graduate from a university program. I'm the first female in my family to actually be working. I'm the first female in my family to be sitting on a camera and talking to y'all. Anyways, there's a lot of firsts. I'm a first-gen immigrant. There's a lot of firsts, and growing up, I never even thought that this is the world that I would be living in. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional. So going back to very early on, I didn't grow up with a computer in my house. Like, we didn't have a computer. Cell phones didn't exist back then. So I didn't even know that working on a computer is actually an option as a career. So that's the background that I come with. And that's how clueless I was in terms of like the tech world and what exists, what are the fields. I have a 6-year gap between my high school. I had to drop out of high school for personal reasons, which I won't go into detail because that will make me even more emotional. And I also had another piece of the story that I don't share often is that I actually had a near-death experience. That was for me kind of like the pivotal point of starting all over again. So that's how the 6-year gap ended. Otherwise, I might not be here where I am. So I decided to go back to school and actually applied to universities, but nobody would accept me because I had a blank resume. I was a high school dropout, and no colleges are willing to take a risk on a high school dropout with a blank resume, blank experience. I started at a community college, and I studied at community college. I took online classes mostly, and I did my 2 years at community college doing online, and then some classes were hybrid. So when I decided to go back to school, I actually picked business as my major because for some reason that was like an obvious choice to me. At that time, I still didn't know tech existed. I finished community college, worked really hard. Another piece of information, English is not my first language, and I struggled quite a bit with English. After finishing the community college, I actually had applied to University of Washington, and they make you, for the business school, and they make you take a written assessment test. I failed that test. That's how bad my English was. And I had to like hire a tutor and like get help and kind of like work on my English, written English specifically. Anyways, so I failed the test, the English test, and I applied again. So I got to the business school. And at the business school, I had access to counselors and advisors. And that's like a common theme that you're going to see in my story is that whenever I had access to an advisor or a counselor, I leveraged that resource to the fullest. So you will see that in my story as I move forward. So one of the counselors actually told me, the student advisor, is to like take different courses in the business school, because within the business school you have to pick like a kind of like a focus area, like marketing, finance, accounting, and things like that. So he suggested that I should take different courses in my business school so I can see what I actually like. So I pick a major. So I started taking the courses. It takes a while because I was taking one course each quarter. Eventually I took one course which was in information systems. So information systems was kind of like more focused on like SQL, database management, data manipulation. And that was my first exposure to the data world. And after taking that class, it was one quarter, I knew what I wanted to do. Up until then, I thought I was going to do accounting because I would always get 4.0s in accounting. But it was until that class that I took that I realized like data world is what I want to explore further. However, it was actually too late for me to switch out of the business major because, as I said, like I took my first 2 years in community college. In my third year, I was taking classes after failing once, like getting rejected from the business school once. I made it and I was like already at the end of my third year. So I had like barely 1 year left. So it was too late for me to like switch out of the business major and go explore another option that is more technical or more data science focused. And back then, like this was back in 2012. Back then, data science wasn't that big of a thing. So what I ended up doing, I ended up taking a lot of classes outside of business school. At the information school, they had 3 classes that they offered that nicely packaged into a certificate. I ended up taking that. At some point during that time period, I got an internship. I struggled a lot with the internship. Like interviews was also another struggle for me because there was one time I went into an interview and this guy was like, okay, and I was so stupid. I told him that I have kids, and this guy was in the interview. He was saying, okay, so like if you have kids, how are you going to manage the word? And I didn't know like that was such an inappropriate question back then because I was so new to the interview world. But now I look back and I realize like, wow, that was ridiculous. That was a ridiculous question that they shouldn't have asked me. That's literally discrimination. So now I make sure to not mention my personal life stuff in my interviews unless I feel comfortable with the company and with the person that I'm talking to. So I struggle with the interviews quite a bit, and that's again when I leveraged my career counselors a lot. Actually, after I failed so many interviews, I went to them and they started helping me with like mock interviews, asking me questions. So I did quite a few of them. And that's when I actually got better, because they would give me feedback, and I'm actually really good. If somebody gives me feedback, like I'm really good at adapting the feedback. And I think that's another part of my story that kind of helped me, like the adaptability and willingness to learn and willingness to grow. Anyways, eventually I applied to an internship at Amazon and I ended up getting that internship. The internship was more focused on financial analysis, and I realized like that's the type of work I don't want to do. And that's when I was interning at Amazon, I actually got exposed to the data engineering domain, BIE world. So I knew, I was like, this sounds interesting. The data engineering specifically, I'll be honest here. I really loved that the data engineer in our team would leave office by 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. and then will go home and work in his own time. And I was like, what is this job family that I have to stay here until 6, but he can leave at 3 and 4? Like, I want to do that. So that was like partially my inspiration, like I'm just being honest here, but also like it's also related to my interest in the data domain. So I started like building my resume. I did an internship at Amazon, which was paid, but before Amazon, I actually did do another internship. It was a startup that doesn't exist anymore. The internship was basically, they didn't pay me anything, but like I was helping them implement Google Analytics into their website and helping them understand what's happening on their web and all of that. Anyways, so the reason I'm mentioning this is because like that's how I basically got my resume from blank to having a lot of projects. The other thing I did at school is I got involved with a student club that would consult smaller startups in my local area. So that again, like didn't pay me, but I was able to like get real world exposure because we were working with startups and we were helping them like build their databases, analyze their data and things like that. That helped me build like project portfolio that I can show on my resume, and would help me like get recruiters and hiring managers, and also gives me something to talk about in my interviews. So building network at Amazon really helped me because it helped me land a few data engineering interviews, because my own team where I was interning as a financial analyst intern was not willing to take me back as a data engineer. They were only willing to give me an offer as a financial analyst. So that's where the networking helped quite a bit, because I interviewed for data engineering roles. From the certificate that I had taken at University of Washington prepared me for the technical round, and I did study on my own, like through online resources and all of that. Eventually, I passed the interview for a data engineering role, and I got an offer from another team. That's when my team found out, and they were, because I told them like, I'm going to take that offer. I don't want to come back as a financial analyst. I want to pursue a more technical role, and I want to go into data engineering. So that's when my team, where I interned, decided to change their mind, and they basically accepted me back as a data engineer because I had another offer from a different team at Amazon for a data engineer role. And I ended up taking my team's offer because I was already familiar with the space. I interned at 8 months, which was like crazy long internship. They don't do those anymore, but like they were still trying to figure out how to do internships back then. So I had a lot of experience working with the data in that team specifically. So I thought it would give me a boost, leg up in terms of like a ramp up time that I would have. So I joined full-time as a data engineer after graduating college. My senior teammate was super helpful. He was like one of the best senior teammates that you could ask for. He really, really guided me, mentored me. He was available as a resource whenever I needed to learn something. Of course, like I would learn on my own, but then if I have like more questions or if I didn't understand a concept accurately, like I'll go to my senior teammate, and I would talk to him and ask him questions. And if he wasn't there, like I don't know if I would ever survive as a data engineer, because there was a lot I had to learn. I went to business school, like I didn't learn that in school, so I had to learn on the job. Oh my God, life is too short. My senior teammate, that person I'm talking about, he actually had to take an early retirement because he got diagnosed with some medical condition that doesn't let him, that he can't work. Life is too short. Work is not everything. Work is not everything. Like the health is like the most important thing. So I did data engineering for about 2 years and got promoted to the data engineer 2. And at that point, I started feeling pretty comfortable in the data engineering domain. There were some pieces that I really liked about data engineering and some pieces I didn't. You can watch one of my videos where I talked about both of these angles and why I ended up leaving if you want to get a more detailed perspective. But eventually I did a research focused project, which was more data data science focused on the side outside of my data engineering world at work. And that was my exposure to like the data science world. And that's when I realized like I wanted to transition to the data scientist role. So then again, I started networking with the people in the companies, looking for different roles, different opportunities. As you can see, that building projects and networking and highlighting my work, whether that is through paid or unpaid internships or in pro bono work, it has been the key to my progression in my journey. Back then, I limited my project highlights to my resume. This was 10 years ago, like more than 10 years ago. If I were to do it again, I would definitely create a website to showcase my portfolio, which is perfect because our sponsor for this section of the video is Hostinger, because it is an affordable domain and website building platform. And if I were to do it all over again, I will definitely consider Hostinger as one of the options to showcase my portfolio. Hostinger is known worldwide for its user-friendly interface and affordable pricing. So it's great for anybody on a budget. Premium is one of the most popular options, so I'm going to pick Premium. Before you check out, make sure that you apply the coupon code Sundas Khalid. After the coupon code, you will get the 10% discount. Next, let's pick a domain for the project portfolio. I wanted to look for sundaskhalid.me and see if it's available. And looks like it is available, so I'm going to claim it. Now to the fun part, building the website. They have super cool AI tools that lets you build your website more dynamically. So I wanted to try that out. The AI website builder is really, really cool. It's basically generative AI where I give it a prompt and it's going to build a website from me from scratch. Here I'm telling it that I'm a data scientist and I want to create 5 projects to highlight my portfolio. And it basically created a website for me from scratch. And wow, this looks neat. Customer segmentation, fraud detection. Not only that, it actually gave me 3 versions and I can actually pick from those versions. I actually really like 3, so I started editing it and making it my own. You can find the link to Hostinger in the description below and a coupon code to get 10% off. Thank you, Hostinger, for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now back to my journey from data engineering to data science. So as I started networking and looking for different teams, I found a team that was perfect. I joined a team which was more data science focused, but they needed a data engineer to do some work for them. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity that I would join the team as a data engineer, get exposed to the space. And then I did have a conversation with the hiring manager that eventually they will help me transition into the data science domain. I actually started learning from other people's work. I would read their code repository. I would go through each of their projects, read their paper, and then read the back end of the code. So a lot of my learning came from like getting exposure to like how other people work, how people who are currently working in the domain, how they work and how they think. There were times when I would go line by line, like I didn't know R back then, and the team was heavily using R during that time. So I actually had to learn R, which was actually a very steep curve for me because R has a very steep learning curve and it's not as intuitive as you would think. For statistics, my manager recommended me a few books that I ended up reading. He was a great resource for me. And eventually I ended up doing my own projects in the data science domain. After a year, it built the case that my manager took my project portfolio and went to the HR to help me transition into the data scientist role. Officially, I was still under data engineer title at that point. So this is when the HR argued that like I don't qualify as a data scientist because I don't have a master's or I don't have a PhD in the data science domain. And this is again where my manager was super crucial in my journey because he basically told the HR like that she doesn't have the degree credentials, but if she's actually doing the work, like why do you care about the degree so much? And that's when the HR decided that yes, if she can do the work, then we're gonna switch her job family. So my work didn't change because I was already doing the work, but my title in the system officially changed to data scientist. Here I got to work on like super cool projects. I ended up staying in that team for about 3 more years. The team itself was super cool because we were exposed to the entire Amazon world globally. And I got to work with a lot of different businesses from like checkout team to Prime team, Alexa team, like any team within Amazon, you name it, like I worked with them, which is like one of the best ways for me to kind of like have that opportunity to get exposure to different products, different business area while applying the data science. And I, to this date, I actually miss working in that team. I would have never left. I would have never left if my team didn't go through a reorg. We all went through a reorg and my manager ended up leaving and I didn't really like my new manager. I mean, he's okay. He wasn't the same manager, but topic for another video. But that's when I decided to pursue other options. I started interviewing at different teams within Amazon again. I had a few offers, but an opportunity at Google came along. So that's when I decided to interview here. And it took me 3 tries, okay? One thing about me is like I am very honest and I'm open. So I'm telling you this because don't think like I did all that data science work and I went to Google and like Google is like, yes, come to us. No, I interviewed once, I got rejected. I interviewed twice, I got rejected. This was my 3rd time interviewing, and this time I actually made it. When I worked as a data scientist, I knew like this was the right career choice for me because my feedback, my performance review went up. I was actually enjoying the work. I was delivering great work. And that was actually the first time I received top tier rating at a company, at my last company at Amazon, which is top tier rating is actually only given to like top, I don't know, 1 or 5% of people. It's very rare to get that rating. And I actually got that rating during my time as a data scientist. To me, that was a clear sign, like this is a great fit for me. And not only that, at my current company where I am at, I actually have received their version of the top tier rating, which feels again, like it feels so unreal because like if you watch my video from start to now, like to where I was at a community college with no tech background, with no data science knowledge, to having trouble with English, being an immigrant, having career gap, high school dropout and all of that, to be here and be validated through my work, it just feels amazing. So you must be wondering like, how did I waste my time going to business school, going to data engineering route before discovering data science? Yes, if I were to do all over again, what I do now, if I were to go all over again, I will definitely pick a focus in school that is more data science and computer science focused. But that doesn't mean that the time that I spent doing business, doing data engineering was wasted, because having a data engineering and a business background has actually made me a better data scientist. Having a data engineering background made me more independent, where I can actually build my own pipelines. It has made me more efficient, where I don't have to rely on other people and I can be more independent in my project. Having a business background has been amazing because it has made me a better communicator. A lot of my work in the data science domain is working with the business stakeholders. So me having that background, I actually understand business much better, what makes sense from business perspective and how to work with business people. Like that is one of my strengths actually. And data engineering is also one of my strengths in my work as a data scientist in the data science domain. So a couple of takeaways from my story. You're probably not going to succeed the first time, but that doesn't mean you give up. You try again. Second is building my project portfolio and getting hands-on experience was extremely helpful for me as well as for other people. For me, it was helpful because it exposed me to the data science world and it made me realize I actually enjoy doing this. For other people, it's because it's going on my resume and other people can see that I can actually do the work. Third is the networking. Networking has been really awesome avenue for me to kind of ask for help, get help where I need it. That's all I wanted to say. I hope you found something valuable in this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a beautiful day. I will talk to you in another video. Talk to you later. Bye. Look at this. This has been, this is actually a big deal to me because growing up, I was very shy. I didn't have a voice. I didn't have an opinion. So this is like a complete 180 for me to like sit in front of a camera and actually be recognized for it. Like it's just crazy how the environment can change a person. Have a placeholder for it. Ta-da! That took a lot of work.